Hello, everyone. Welcome to the Packer Universe podcast, aka the Pup List. This is the first takeaway with Tay and Ren. We are after the Packers' first preseason game loss to the Steelers on Thursday Night Football. First preseason game of 2026. They lost 28-9 against Aaron Rodgers and the Mike McCarthy Steelers. So, Ren, not a whole lot going on in this game. I think it's pretty ho-hum, even keel, nothing super bad, nothing super great. It was just kind of whatever. And I guess in a sense that was good for the team, for the Packers to be like, whatever. We're not like, losing big things, losing tons of injuries, giving up big plays. I mean, they didn't play great in the second half. They gave up 2 touchdowns in the fourth, but you're talking third, fourth string guys here. But when you look at the first string offense, defense, it wasn't too bad. And even special teams, one of the highlights was actually Trey Smack smacking it through the uprights. So you got to give it to him. Good job. I think what did he hit? Like three.
Why are you taking all the good stuff right up front?
Well, that's all there is.
That's all I was gonna say. Like, well, we're gonna be Jim Rome today, Tay. Have a take. Don't suck. Bring the smack talk, because that's what we got.
And now
smack talk.
I took it away
that's
from
it. You did. You did.
Talk.
And I had to stay awake to do this. And I am uber tired. So I'm cranky with an old birthday coming up here in 10 days or so. Well, the same for you, but one less year for you. But no, man. I mean, Trey Smack is listen, they were up 9-7 at one point on the right leg of Trey Smack. Hits a 58-yarder. Oh wait, penalty, first down, then bangs another one through. And dude hit another 57-yarder later, and man, he hammered all those kicks. They weren't kind of good. They were all real good. Mm-hmm. So the kid, is he learning? Are those Ryan Longwell conversations he's continuing to have working? I mean, I'm not any Mr. Applebee's fan, Tay, but if there's one thing that we could take away as a positive tonight, and I'm going to give you a negative here in a minute, and that is Trey Smack. That's the standout guy. I'll give you like a light positive too, but positive being that we're playing, Mr. Fundamentals tonight. I had to give you a little of that, right? Big Mac, back in town. So, but big negative. I know he's been a talk in camp. The fifth-year player, brought over from the Colts, Jalen Simpson, as a cornerback, but woof, man, his stock. Just tanking, he's the guy who slips in the 75-yard almost touchdown catch and run down to the 2 or 3. Woof, man. Then he's getting a DPI late in the game down to the 3. He's getting cooked on some other ones. Ugh. I don't know, man. Jalen Simpson. Yikes. Suddenly went from, highlight of camp to maybe not even making the practice squad after this game today. I want to tell you that one right there. That kid had a rough one. And he was playing with 2s, he was playing with 3s. He was out there. They're giving him run, but man, he hurt his chances tonight big time.
Yeah, I know, but like this will happen to at least 1 or 2 players, and maybe they'll bounce back in the next 2 games. We'll see, but I think they'll give them a chance unless they're seeing other things in practice. But there's always a stinker, right, in every preseason game.
He was hot garbage today, hot garbage, and he's going to get rated by, I heard Andy Herman talking about today. He'll watch the game, then he'll watch the condensed version, then the all 22. It's like, oh God, you got to watch that garbage that many times. But I'm sure I guess he watches the all 22 to grade every player and every snap. Jalen Simpson, not going to get any love. I'm going to tell you that. Another guy who's not going to get any love, Tay? That'd be our guy, Kyron Drones. Can't play. Can't do it. I want winners, Tay. That kid, he stinks. He is not ready for prime time. A little positivity here, Tay. Kyle McCord, you
Yeah,
know,
he looked good.
he ran the offense a little bit. You
Mm-hmm.
know, I will say though, the Steelers, man, they run deep. We know they have 4 quarterbacks. One of them sat on the bench, for the whole game. That's number 8, Aaron Rodgers. We know who that guy is. But obviously they got Mason Rudolph, and then they just go into who is it?
Alar. No, you're talking
No,
Will Howard.
Will Howard, who played adequately, and then Drew Alar, the third round pick out of Penn State, who had his season cut short last year by injury. Out of playing for a home state team, he looked great. And yeah, they were talking about on the Packer broadcast here. Nice having that West Coast offense, nowhere to go, and just bam, bam, bam. And Drew Allar or LR, however you want to say it. I don't know, potato, potato.
Alar.
But he was killing them, man. Obviously, he was playing against the dregs, the third and fourth string guys on the Packers, but he was cooking them. So good on them. I mean, that's kind of what you're going to see. The Packers fall off. I mean, Jordan played very little. Even Tyrod really didn't play much, and it was just Kyle McCord a little bit, who again a lot better than I expected, and then some just hot garbage again at the end dregs of the what do you get sacked for a 13-yard loss, and they were running a little like not run and shoot, but they were some of that gimmicky stuff they did with Malik Willis, and not ready for prime time. Kyron Drones, I pointed out when we went to camp the other day, dude drags his feet, dude drags everything. I mean, he is again hot garbage. That was bad. I'm just trying to think. Robert Tunyon having himself a game in the middle of that game, and that was kind of funny, in the respect that here's essentially how long has he been in the league now, Tay? Nearly a decade.
He's 32.
Yeah. So I mean, he's just like burning up these, first, second, third year players on, way end of the depth chart, trying to make a 53-man roster and making them look bad while doing it. Yeah, he cooked them. So I don't know. I don't really have, the Packer running game, when you get into Martinez, woof. Doesn't look like a P squad kind of RB to me. That's like 1 yard in a cloud of dust. Not impressed whatsoever with his play. Kennard, you see him leave, under his own power. So hopefully that's going to be okay because they have no depth at tackle beyond the starters. So there's not a bunch of huge takeaways. I mean, you got your ass kicked by a team that's just, again, far more deep at the quarterback position for a preseason game. I think that's all it really comes down to. I think these teams play their, starting 11 on each side of the ball. I think the Packers beat this team and they beat them pretty handily, but that's kind of what you get with a game like this. What is it? Michael Sturdivant. There's a guy, game ball. He can catch some balls. He's stretched out for a few of them. I liked his play. He's been talked about a little bit in camp, from that wide receiver position. That's definitely a guy talking about the P squad today that certainly could be a fit on the roster at the wide receiver position. But, there's not a lot, when I'm thinking back to this, like guys that like stood out and did things. Brenton Cox was, in the early part of the game, he was in the backfield. He's moving, he's doing things, but, you essentially got a pseudo vet again going up against second stringers. And he was, definitely taking advantage of that. But there's not a lot more that stands out to me beyond, I guess, the aforementioned few guys like Sturdivant, the hot garbage of Jalen Simpson, a little bit here, a little bit there. But how about you?
Sure. Yeah, no. I thought McCord played well. I kind of felt a little bad when you get into, changing the quarterbacks, but then you see some of these guys that are vying for a roster spot getting to play with like the third, fourth string quarterback. And it's kind of like, little disadvantage, right? But you got to make the best of every opportunity given to you. And I thought that Sturdivant did great in the second quarter, or second half. He really did some good things. I know he had a deep bomb to him that he kind of messed up, and maybe that was his fault. At least John Kuhn was kind of saying it was him.
It was one or the other. I mean, they weren't on the same page, clearly.
But
nice arm on McCord on that one.
Yeah. But Nair was great. He was 4 for 34, targeted 4 times.
There you go, Nair. That's a brighter spot. Yep.
So he looked great. He looked so I think him and Sturdivant, they have a good chance of making this roster, maybe making that 6th player or a 6th wide receiver. So those guys came through. I thought they played really well. When you're talking about the defensive side, man, I'm talking about initially, like the first quarter, the pass rush was decent. Got to him. Love to see that, actually. And then run stopping. I thought that was done really well in the first quarter. So looking at that first defense, that made me feel good. I was actually impressed with that. Everything kind of drops off, and it's like,
it drops off precipitously, Tay. I mean, it's like, and then again, you see, like, where does one team maybe have a little bit more depth than the others? But I think, that again starts with the quarterback, for the other team's offense, because, if you can move the ball, you're going to have more success in the later half of a football game, in a preseason game, with competent quarterback play. And that's the big game changer in these kind of games. But
one thing that I noticed early with this first string defense was the secondary. I thought they got carved up in the first half big time. Huge gaps. I don't know if that's zone defense scheme going on. They were missing tackles. I was not impressed with the secondary at all. So I hope that is a big learning lesson tonight. And again, that's kind of been there with the Packers for a little while now. Hopefully that changes to the positive direction. But at least the defensive line did their job on both aspects of the game. But yeah, there was missed tackles, which you don't like to see. The Steelers gave up a lot of penalties tonight, and that helped the Packers keep their drives going. But I feel like we're always on the end of those bad calls and a lot of yellow flags being thrown. So it's kind of nice to see it on the other side. And maybe that was McCarthy all along, because he loves that those terrible towels getting thrown out by the Zebras. Trey Smack did a great job. Maybe is proving us wrong, but first game in the spotlight did really well. We'll see about the next 2.
Yeah.
But yeah, I'm glad you brought up the Tool Shed Tunyon, right? Is that what?
Yeah, that's Robert the Tool Shed Tunyon. Yeah, back in the day, Tay. Yeah, that's what we're gonna go with. And yeah, he was a man amongst boys, and you could kind of tell he's like, I'm in game shape. I can play. I've played this game. I do this. I know how to, just pick you young guys apart, and clearly it showed from a veteran like that.
It was at I think it was the last drive by the Steelers. It was just all Tunyon, and he just then ends up scoring the touchdown. But early on, Zaire Franklin, I kind of saw him getting dominated by a big offensive lineman. So if those offensive linemen get to the secondary, I think he's a little small, so I worry about that. So we'll see. I'll kind of keep my eye on Franklin and how the run stop works with him in there, because that he's smaller and stout, and I don't know if
he's smart. He's a smart guy. He's fiery, but that's not really his place in this defense.
Right.
To come in and fill at the end, that's he shouldn't be the guy like that. That's totally queuing and having to close down that play. But at least in my opinion, again, it's more about being kind of the chess piece, the guy with the green dot. Making sure everybody else is assignment sure and being a leader on that defense, and then doing a few things here and there. I know he's a little bit questionable in pass coverage as well. So, yeah, I mean, he should be able to come up and fill, but, not dealing with an offensive alignment, obviously.
I thought Wiley did really well tonight. everybody else is kind of like whatever. Swinson was it? He's all right.
Besides Swinson, he had a couple out there. I mean, you heard Kuhn talking about Dabney. Made a couple nice catches. Those kind of things. But I mean, there wasn't really like any. Again, Trace Mack's a standout today. That's it. When everybody's talking about this preseason game tomorrow, that was a woof game. Like I said, I'm tired AF. Like that last quarter and a half was pretty tough watch. There was not much to take away from it. Like I said, I'm barely awake right now. Trace Mack was the thing. I remember when he hit the second long on him. It was that right before the half. They get in position. I think it was Kyle McCord. They got 12 seconds on the clock, and they get that little hitch out, and they get the ball clocked with 1 second. I was like, nice play by McCord. And then Smack goes and hits it. I'm like, I yelled out loud. I'm the only person in the kitchen / open area looking at the TV. I'm like, attaboy, get him, Smack. Like that was it for me. That was the highlight of the game going into the half.
Marshawn Lloyd obviously played and started, but the running
back didn't die either. He's alive still. I heard
smacked down, and he's still there. He's still alive, and I don't know. So I didn't see enough from anybody really in the running back room to make any kind of decision tonight on anything. But it was just kind of whatever. It was there.
Martinez not making the club. Book it.
Yeah, I mean Strong was okay, whatever. But and Sky Moore, they used him a lot more than I thought they were going to tonight. They did it on some trickery plays. They did a lot more in the So I was I don't know. I guess I was shocked that they played him that much. But
got to get him a little lathered up in that. Especially he did field some kicks. Get him going, man.
Even in that wide receiver position. So I think the dude's making the team for sure. I don't think we have to worry about that. I think it's a different situation this year with a specialist like that. But I was kind of happy with what he showed us on the field tonight. But yeah, Ren, that's about all I've got to. Let's go on to next week with the Denver Broncos.
You go on to next week in Denver with the Broncos, Tay.
Yep. So we'll be back next week with a regularly weekly episode live on Wednesday, Ren. So everyone join us back there then. So appreciate everyone jumping in to the live stream tonight. Thank you very much for the support and the follows. Ren, it's time. You may be dismissed. You can go to sleep now. And get your little your precious Z's.
I am far too ready for that.
All right, man. Well, take care and good night, and we'll see you guys all in the next episode next week.
Until episode 369, Tay, on the pup list.